That's good.
Hey, hold on, this way, defense. Hey.
Get tight, get tight, get tight, get tight.
Yeah. Yeah, Harrison.
Touchdown. Oh, wow.
We here at the photo shoot getting headshots right now. Uncle Luke right here in the background. He ain't trying to give us nothing right now. He real serious. He's real serious. Yeah, we in here, yeah. Let's do it, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have an alternative too. We could also build as a team at main event. Got the high score on this jump shot, and I got the first strike of the day.
Tight ends are the best. I'll carry us. Tight ends are the best bowling group. Worst? Probably the linebackers.
Hey, defense about to get that button looked. Hey, let's go, squad.
Woo! That was so much fun.
Let's get it.
We turned up today. Let's go.
Good work out here, baby. Come on now. Get past.
Okay, this is Alan from the Alan and Aaron Sports Radio Show. On 3 occasions, I had people on my show, skeptical people, that XFL was not going to work, and I had to defend it. So I want to get from you, what should I say the next time it happens?
Oh, I appreciate you defending it. Well, you know what? Being skeptical on why something works and doesn't work, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that, right? We've had a number of spring leagues that haven't worked. But the key about the XFL is actually ownership. And when I say ownership, it's not only the understanding that DJ and I have about live events, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling, and the fact that we're filmmakers. It's also Jerry Cardinal and Redbird Capital, right? Because it's about the investment into the league. I believe a lot of startups had a business model and said, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to get all these tickets, and that's going to keep our league afloat, and we'll have sponsorship and a media deal. But that's not how you build a league. A league takes time. You're going to carry that burden for 3, maybe 5 years. That's okay. That's how you make a decision. That's how we made the decision. We didn't build this league saying, okay, right now we expect this turnover in year 1. All we expect is to put dynamic play on the field, to work with our incredible Disney partners, use our media distribution, create incredible content, bring our fans and build community, and take the time to have longevity. So if you tell them that, they're going to be like, they should be good.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Dany, Kyle Nash with the 3-point conversion. You're not Orlandonian, as has been made clear earlier.
Yes.
The word opportunity comes up a lot with the XFL. What kind of an opportunity is this for Orlando?
Oh, well, first of all, anything that comes to Orlando is a great opportunity. I'm going to say that, but I'm so biased because I love Orlando so much. But I would like to think having a professional football league here in the spring, which, as we know, right, when we live here in Orlando, what an amazing time. What has been proven is that America has an appetite for spring football. I want to bring that appetite here. I want to engage our community. I want to give them something that they can be so excited about. You know, an investment here, an investment in the community pride, more relationships, deeper relationships with our other professional teams, bringing more. And I believe this for Florida. Florida And Orlando can be the epicenter of creativity, sports, and entertainment, and that's our commitment here.
Dany, Ryan Lynch with the Orlando Business Journal. In terms of the lead up to the season, what has the interest been like in ticketing and also like your different marketing and?
Absolutely. First of all, we are 80% to plan. So I want to tell you the ticketing expectations have gone really well. We are treating all our new markets, so Las Vegas, San Antonio, Orlando, exactly like their new markets. We've had strong interest. We have strong interest in premium seating, but we continue to do the work. We know we have to be here. We know we have to show up. We have to be involved in the community. But right now, we're very, very pleased.
Dany, Steve Wilson with the Florida Broadcasting Group and Space Coast Daily. So much of your background is in the entertainment industry. You plan to bring an extra added amount of entertainment to the XFL?
Well, the entertainment aspect of sports does have an aspect of entertainment. They're actually not separate. So while we have made changes to the game, changes to the rules, we've still kept the core of football. Football has to stay football, but you can make it more dynamic. We can explore how we're shooting. We absolutely invest in giving more access to the players, more access to the coaches, so the fan experience is deeper. And then we bring that entertainment aspect to how can our fans experience the XFL, not just watch it. So what is the content? What are the activations? So I would say yes. I would also say, and DJ has heard me say this before and agrees, everything I've done in my last 31 years of business has brought me to this moment. And this moment requires all of that skill.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your alt football media guru. On this week's show, roster moves, trades, signings, releases. Dean Blandino, head of officiating for the XFL. Brian Herrion, DC Defenders running back. Courtney Jeffries, CEO of Virtual Tables. We heard about that partnership. Plus, Oliver Luck talks about the XFL. I have that. Right there, you just heard Dany Garcia, the CEO and chairwoman of the XFL. You heard her talk about that 3 to 5 year plan, plus 80% to plan when it comes to the Orlando Guardians season ticket holders. I wanted to shout out to Alan and Aaron Sports Talk radio show. We have links in the show notes to their program. Thank you for that clip there. So give you a little plug and check out their stuff as well. We'll try to check in with them during the season as well. So if you like football, then like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this to 60 likes. Hit that notification bell to get alerted when breaking news happens and we post new content. So we appreciate that there. So we got a huge show, breaking news in the last couple hours, talking about Brian Scott. He's out of the XFL? Was it a mutual thing? Was it the fact that he wasn't playing well? Who knows? We'll get to all of that stuff and so much more, plus our interviews. We've got a ton of content on this program today. So we would just want to quickly go through. So if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts or record an MP3 on your phone. Leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. First of all, what's up to everybody in the chat room as well? You can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read those on the show. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, and we are live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday here on the YouTubes, no matter what, going into the season. You want to know no matter what? I am missing my daughters. 2 daughters are in a swim meet tonight. We will give an update. I've got, if you have kids swim, Meet Mobile is where you can do it there. I was like, we are too close. We are so close to the season. You want to know how close to the season we are? Let's see here. We are just 18 days from kickoff of the XFL season. February 18th, the XFL season begins. So I was like, I have to do this live. We have to keep the momentum going. So I'll be checking in and I'll let you know how they did in some of their events. But I've checked my phone. I haven't seen any updates yet. So shout out to my 2 daughters swimming tonight for their high school team. Shout out to them. Also, we have, don't forget that we have alt football on Reddit, links to that, plus News Hub Fantasy Football. I just want to talk about that. Leagues are forming now, and you can join now. We'll talk about it later, but over 2,000 users so far and 600 leagues are signed up for News Hub Fantasy. That's to just play XFL fantasy football. That's right. So we have that going on as well. Plus, I will be at the DC Defenders event. You probably, if you're a DC Defenders fan, you've gotten the notification about their event. So I'll be there with my wife. You've seen her. She's more popular than I am. But come out and say hello to us when we're at the event. Question of the week, who is going to win the XFL South Division? I want to hear all my friends in chat. I see you in chat. Let all of us know what your thoughts are. Who's going to win the South Division? We'll get to that. Interviews. This is going to be a long show, but it's going to be a lot of fun, jam-packed with information. We try to keep you up to date on all the latest XFL news so you don't have to go search on the web. We got it all for you right here. So without further ado, folks, we'll get into the news, then we'll get into the interviews, then we'll get into your social media stuff. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. So the Las Vegas Vipers and Brian Scott part ways. The team signs QB Brett Huntley. This happened today. So the Vegas Vipers, Brian Scott, both agreed it was best to mutually part ways. Scott felt that he was a starting QB in either the USFL or XFL and didn't view himself as anything else. We've also heard that maybe they cut him or it was mutual. It's just kind of they're done with each other. Let's just put it that way. So now as a free agent, Brian can either sign with another XFL team or head back over to the USFL. Every team in the XFL right now just about has their QB room set for the season with teams like the Guardians. They just added Paxton Lynch this past Monday. So it would be tough for Scott to get on a team at the moment, but not impossible. You never know. Other teams who might have wanted Brian Scott will let them go and then maybe bring in. So who knows? So it's just a very fluid situation. In the corresponding moves, the Vipers went out and got NFL veteran Brett Huntley to start for the team. Huntley is an 8-year veteran and has been with 6 different teams throughout his career. Let's see here. The decision was made. This is from XFL Analyst. He dropped the story there. Brett played for the Packers, Seahawks, Cardinals, Colts, my Baltimore Ravens, Saints, my Baltimore Ravens. Again, Brett was well known for his starting season in Green Bay back in 2017, where he went 3-6 as a starter after recording 1,836 passing yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 12 picks, 270 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. So more on this story. We're just going to have to see, does Brian Scott stay in the XFL? Does he turn around and go back to the USFL? Just stay tuned to XFL News Hub as all this news continues to break. Paxton Lynch signs with the Guardians, so the Orlando Guardians found themselves a new signal caller to add to the mix. Quarterback Paxton Lynch made his way around various North American football leagues, playing his college ball at Memphis. He was a first-round pick of 2016 by the Denver Broncos, expected to succeed the great Peyton Manning. In his 4 years with the Tigers, he threw for 8,863 yards, 53 TDs, being named the 2014 Miami Beach Pro Bowl MVP. Unfortunately for Lynch, his NFL career didn't quite go as expected after being drafted with the 26th overall pick. He started just 4 games, appearing in 5, and looked not that great. Abysmal is the word used. He threw just 128 balls for 792 yards and 4 touchdowns and 4 picks. That's not terrible. He hopped from team to team for a little bit, joining the Seahawks in 2019 for a preseason, but was released during final cuts. Lynch quickly found a home with the Steelers practice squad in 2019, an injury to Mason Rudolph, but was released the following season. This was news broken by XFL Analyst, but later the XFL announced it later on. The former first-round pick made his way up north in the CFL for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Unfortunately, never made an appearance for them and was released in February of 2022. Through on the same day of his release from the Rough Riders, he quickly found a home in the USFL with the Michigan Panthers. Lynch would appear in 6 games, starting in 3, and pass for 550 yards, 4 TDs, going 2-1 as a starter. He'll join Orlando's team that's looking to make some noise in their next rendition of the XFL, entering the quarterback room with Quinton Dormandy, DeAndre Francois, and Mitch Kidd. Now, Lynch is easily the biggest name in the depth chart, but it's not about who you are. It's about how you play. We'll see how it goes. Impact of Lynch has on the team if he finds a way on the field. I know that they got rid of, I believe they released Mitch Kidd, a former guy in the Fan Control Football League. So I think they just have 3 quarterbacks. But there you have it, Paxton Lynch, a guy that the XFL 2.0 was looking at. Then he played in the USFL, did okay, really played well, I think, the final game for the Michigan Panthers, and now is on with the Orlando Guardians, who sounded like they were looking for a quarterback, and maybe they have found their guy. All right, you sports nerds, something that we are definitely going to be covering is DraftKings. We're going to be covering this a lot. Sports betting is big in this country and so forth. And you know the whole deal. So even though the XFL and the DraftKings has yet to announce a partnership officially, their sports book has released early lines on who will win the 2023 XFL Championship. I put some money down. Shocker on who you think I picked. You can see the sports book now in the section for the XFL. If you go into the app, I always go online, but football, under football, you have NFL, college football, and now you have the XFL. DraftKings has St. Louis Battlehawks. Caw is the law, apparently, in the betting world as the early favorite to win the 2023 XFL Championship, with the Seattle Sea Dragons not too far behind. Really? The sportsbook has the Houston Roughnecks and Orlando Guardians as the worst teams in the XFL. Does Scott make his way over to Houston Roughnecks? Orlando Guardians, we just brought in Paxton Lynch. Does that change their history? Now, not all states have access to online sports books, but if you do, you might as well put down a small bet on who you think will win the XFL Championship in 2023. The DraftKings lines will undoubtedly change as the season progresses, and also make sure that we'll be covering all this stuff on XFL Week in Review. So the lines are the Battlehawks plus 400, Sea Dragons plus 450, and I'll explain all this plus and minus stuff later on. Arlington Renegades plus 500, San Antonio Brahmas plus 550, Vegas Vipers are plus 600, DC Defenders plus 650. I put in, I think it was a $5 bet, and if they win the championship, that's a $36 and something change win for me. That's just kind of how it works. I do not bet big money. Don't be a degenerate gambler. You watched the NFL championship games this past weekend. You've had money on Brock Purdy. He hits his hand. He's done. You get the drift. Very risky, but it makes the games fun to watch. Houston Roughnecks and then Orlando Guardians at the plus 750. So no official word from DraftKings about when they'll have, DFS and a lot of other lines going. We expect that announcement to happen in the next couple of weeks. The XFL first version, or the XFL 2.0, waited about a week or two before the season kicked off before they made this announcement. So stay tuned for XFL with DraftKings and FanDuel. I am sure is along the way. They did it for the USFL. I would be stunned and shocked if they didn't do it for the XFL as well. So the XFL announced another partnership with Virtual Tables. So the XFL and Virtual Tables, the leader in providing virtual venues of fandom, announced a partnership to incorporate their DigiSign product into the league's fan engagement offerings. Through DigiSign, the XFL and Virtual Tables will create a set of exclusive fan events that will allow participants to engage with players and coaches in either a one-on-one or group experience. These unique meet and greet experience will feature virtual autographs and personalized digital keepsakes with participation from players and coaches of all 8 teams. Quote, as a league, we promise to break down the barriers between fans and players by being forward-thinking and accessible, said Janet Dutch, XFL Chief Marketing and Team Business Operations Officer. DigiSign's technology will help us connect and interact with our fans while our teams spend the season practicing in the XFL Hub in Arlington. So this is part of the issue, is that because the teams are in Arlington, how can they engage with teams, say, the DC Defenders? Well, they really can't. This gives fans an opportunity to be engaged with the team virtually, at least for now. Quote, we are excited to announce this partnership with the XFL. The XFL is a brand pushing the boundaries of traditional fan engagement, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be creating these unique, one-of-a-kind opportunities for their fans, says Courtney Jeffries, CEO of Virtual Tables. DigiSign gives the players and fans the ability to connect and interact irrespectively of their location, delivering the coveted in-person authentic experience. The XFL is establishing a new best practice playbook for fan engagement, and we are excited to be part of their 2023 season, creating these fan touchpoints. So organizations have partnered with Virtual Tables to bring DG fans across 30 plus countries. DigiSign was created with the intention of giving a one-of-a-kind digital collectible and memory that extends beyond the traditional fan experience. Fans can instantly share the collectibles on their social channels, showcasing their experience to all their fans. Up-to-date league, team, player information is now available, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. That is Virtual Tables. We have an interview with the CEO, Courtney Jeffries, where she talks more about this interesting, very cool partnership for XFL fans in the 2023 season. Well, this was written 5 days ago, and things have changed, but we'll still do it anyway. Our man, Pat Ruffino, has a way too early XFL quarterback ranking, and if you see on the front cover, the first person is Brian Scott, who is now no longer with the Vegas Vipers. So we'll just put that here. So with the XFL season about 3 weeks away, it's time to break down everyone's favorite topic regarding alt football quarterbacks, with Jordan Prommel brought in to oversee QB development. The XFL has already made some strides to ensure the proper development of their players at the sport's most important position. After much discussion with the staff of XFL News Hub, below are the top 16 QBs going into 2023 season. Number 16, Kevin Anderson, Arlington Renegades. While he may be considered a low man on the totem pole in Arlington, Kevin Anderson should not be counted out. Coming into his fourth pro league, AAF, CFL, TSL, and XFL 3.0, Anderson's 2001 season was underrated with the Spring League's Conquerors, where he split time with alt league vet Brandon Silvers. Anderson would throw for 682 yards, 5 touchdowns. So he is number 16. Number 15, D'Eriq King, my DC Defenders. It took a minute, but King finally joined the Defenders after a quick stint with the Panthers. Ranks low on the list due to his erratic play as a passer and diminutive size. While he does have the potential, the recent acquisition of Jordan Ta'amu ensures that King won't see much of the field, barring injury or special packages for the DC Defenders in 2023. Jack Cohen, San Antonio Brahmas. Cohen was a late addition after Brahmas went after Jawan Pass and Anthony Russo. Despite being an afterthought, Cohen has the potential to be Brahmas' second string coming out of camp. Strong college career at Notre Dame and Wisconsin. Cohen was the odd man out in the QB room with the Colts that housed Sam Ehlinger, Matt Ryan, and Nick Foles. Maybe with Pass and Sinnett going into week 1, but definitely has a higher ceiling than Pass. Could lead further opportunities to develop in the XFL's second season. Drew Plitt, Arlington Renegades, surprise cut by the Bengals in 2022. Plitt would be neck and neck with Sloter as QB1 for the Arlington Renegades for QB1. While Sloter's experience outweighs Plitt, his youth and potential could easily make him a top 5 QB in the XFL. Plitt's lack of experience at the NFL level during camp is why he's not ranked higher. However, the more playing time he receives could change the outlook of his pro career. Number 12, Steven Montez, Seattle Sea Dragons. Montez and Plitt could be interchangeable at 13-14. However, Montez gets the nod due to experience and athleticism, while Montez and Plitt's college statistics, passing, are extremely similar. Montez' underrated rushing ability is what gives him the nod. Look for Montez to be utilized in a Taysom Hill capacity, potentially, for the Seattle Sea Dragons in 2023. DeAndre Francois, Orlando Guardians. Francois is the highest riser or fall on this list in 2023. Despite his domination in fan control football, Francois' only opportunity as a pro in the outdoor game came with the Spring League, where he couldn't beat out Connor Keegi for consistent playing time. After starting out hot at FSU, Francois' consistent play ability at multiple schools and division leaves him with many question marks going into 2023. Regardless of what Francois lacks as a passer, he makes up for it in his running ability, which may be able to keep him and the Guardians competitive for 2023. Remember, lots have changed since this was written just a couple days ago, including Paxton Lynch coming on board for Orlando Guardians. Number 10, Cole McDonald, Houston Roughnecks. McDonald comes out at 10 due to a lack of experience and possibility of not being a QB1 for week 1 for the Roughnecks. McDonald's strong college career and limited pro experience does give him a leg up above the previous mentioned QBs. The combination of A.J. Smith at OC and dynamic Roughnecks offense could help all Houston quarterbacks become a top 4 passer in the XFL. A lot of people were surprised that Cole McDonald didn't make his way to Seattle with the Sea Dragons. Reed Sinnett, San Antonio Brahmas. If you followed Reed's career, you shouldn't be surprised that despite not only taking a regular snap or playing in alt leagues, he's ranked so high. Sinnett's only year as a starter at San Diego University put together a season that included 32 TDs, 3,528 yards, and only 10 picks. Despite being an undrafted free agent, Sinnett put together 2 solid preseason games, totaling 655 yards, 5 TDs, 2 picks. With Sinnett still developing, the more experienced, the better he'll become, and the XFL gives him that opportunity. A name we know a lot about, Brandon Silvers of Houston Roughnecks. While whether it's Silvers or McDonald, the Roughnecks QB will statistically be a top 5 passer at the end of the year. Some of you fantasy football and DFS nerds keep that in mind. Guys like on the Roughnecks, Seattle Sea Dragons, typically will probably be pretty good quarterbacks in the XFL based on who their offensive coordinator is. Silvers is one of the most underrated QBs in the Spring League history since the inception of the XFL 1.0. Silvers has totaled 19 passing TDs, second all-time post-2000, 2023 passing yards, 7th all-time. Despite not playing in the USFL in 2022, look for him to continue to add those numbers and solidify himself in Spring League lore in A.J. Smith's offense. So you can look at passing leaders of Luis Perez, Brooks Bollinger, Brandon Silvers, Tommy Maddox, P.J. Walker. Here is a list on XFL News Hub. Luis Perez, Vegas Vipers. A lot of people have been saying that maybe Perez has been leading the way with the Vegas Vipers QB situation. So Mr. Alt Football himself comes in at number 7. The consistent play of Perez over in the AAF, USFL, TSL, XFL 2.0 has given Perez a great reputation as a solid but not elite player. Perez has had several NFL stints. However, despite the opportunities, hasn't been able to stick around. While the NFL window seems to be closing, Perez has essentially morphed into alt football's Alex Smith and will consistently put up 185 to 225 passing yards with 1 or 2 touchdowns. Luis Perez sitting there. Ryan Willis, St. Louis Battlehawks, go Hokies. Willis burst on the scene after a rather pedestrian college career at KU and Virginia Tech. He did beat out Herndon Hooker at one point. His time in the 2021 Spring League allowed him to earn a championship and MVP honors as a member of the Linemen, which translated into a new short stint with the Bears in 2021. Willis may not be the Battlehawks QB1 for 2023, but his pedigree playing at the pro level jumps him into the top 6. Going on, Ben DiNucci seems to be a guy. DiNucci is another quarterback that joins the XFL with pro experience. DiNucci started 1 game for the Cowboys in 2020, but has played in 7 preseason games. DiNucci has improved in each year he's been in the NFL, and his spot start in 2020 to his preseason starts in 2021 and 2022. Look for DiNucci to continue to improve under the tutelage of June Jones, who helped P.J. Walker's career with the Roughnecks in 2020, and receiver Josh Gordon. Keep that in mind. Ben DiNucci to Josh Gordon. That could be a combo for your DFS nerds out there. A.J. McCarron, St. Louis Battlehawks. So McCarron is the most accomplished and experienced QB in the XFL 3.0 with 1,026 pass attempts in college, 174 attempts in the NFL. McCarron is primed to be a one and done in the XFL if he puts together a one and done in the XFL if he puts together a solid season for the Battlehawks. McCarron's best days may be behind him, but the 3-time national champion has the ability to easily get back into the NFL with a solid performance in the XFL. McCarron, being an elder statesman with NFL playoff experience, also gives him a leg up like many of the younger QBs stepping into the league. Number 3, Kyle Sloter. He was an early MVP vote until he got a knee injury in the USFL. Is a regular season, despite not appearing in an NFL regular season game, Sloter is the second most experienced NFL vet on the list. Sloter started off hot in the USFL, yet injuries and fatigue may have factored in his late season fall off. Despite everything, Sloter was named the 2022 All-USFL team and put together a decent performance with the Jaguars in the Hall of Fame game in 2022. Sloter has been dubbed at times Mr. Preseason by many of his late game heroics, having often cemented himself on a roster spot for several teams. His preseason stats, 1,349 yards, 12 TDs, and 1 pick, demonstrates plenty of promise for the upcoming XFL season. Another player whose NFL window may be closing. Look for Sloter to give it all in 2023 for the Arlington Renegades. Brian Scott, Vegas Vipers. Here's the thing. So the Aaron Rodgers of D3, Scott is prime position to finally jump from the alt football to the XFL. Coupled with Martavis Bryant, Scott could easily cement himself as the premier passer for the XFL, but things didn't work out in the with the Vegas Vipers. The question now is, and he was good in the USFL, so we don't know what's going on with his slot. So clearly he's out the way. Maybe a guy like Paxton Lynch moves in. This list, maybe Slaughter probably moves up to 2, and maybe throw Paxton Lynch there in the top 5. Clearly this is way too early. And man, we should have made this video as soon as it happened, as soon as Pat wrote it, because Brian Scott, which shocked many of us, is now out of a team at this moment. But there are teams interested from the USFL, we have heard, in Scott, and potentially another landing place with the XFL. But I bet you, if I were a betting man, and I don't know this for certain, that he makes his way back to the USFL. Number 1 on the list, DC Defenders, America's team, a returnee from 2020's St. Louis Battlehawks, Jordan Ta'amu, is the top dog in the XFL 2023 to start out while running for his life with the Tampa Bay Bandits. Ta'amu still managed to put over 2,000 yards, led the USFL in TDs, 14 as well. Ta'amu's passing ability, coupled with his rushing ability, led the Bandits and top 10 in XFL in 2022, make him a prime candidate to be the top QB in the XFL this season. So some clothing thoughts. Expect these rankings to change throughout the season as teams constantly retool and readjust their rosters. With the XFL primed and ready to go, the majority of the QBs in this list have experience in the NFL preseason and other football leagues. The XFL is in a stable position to begin the league with solid QB play, giving fans an overall exciting product. So who do you think? Do you think this list is right? Well, clearly we know Brian Scott is out, and that surprised all of us. I wouldn't know a single guy on XFL News Hub that thought Brian Scott would not be at least in the top 5 quarterbacks. But now apparently, other players are playing well. Could Luis Perez be the guy? We don't know. But what do you think of this list? A way too early XFL quarterback ranking. Get your comments in quick, because guess what? This list will probably be rewritten in the next week or 2. So get your thoughts and put those names in the comments. All right, let's rip through some of the trades and changes that's happening. So former Battlehawks linebacker safety Brendan White signs with the Indoor Football League. After being allotted to the Battlehawks via the Alumni Academy, Brendan White is already on the move. The 24-year-old was placed on the St. Louis Battlehawks reserve list on January 20th, only to be released a day later. White wouldn't be out of the work for much longer, as the Rutgers/Ohio State alum recently signed on with my Massachusetts Pirates of the IFL. We interviewed the co-owner of the Massachusetts Pirates, so that is our official team here, at least for me. So he is now in the Indoor Football League. And he's not the only guy that's been switching to the Indoor Football League. Training camp is underway. There's some other roster moves and trades, starting with the Roughnecks dealt wide receiver Darius Robertson Jr. to the Brahmas in exchange for Cary Vincent Jr., a cornerback. Robertson, a Division II standout at Wayne State, had stints in both the Cards and Seahawks, later signed with the Argos in the CFL. Wasn't able to make the final roster. Robertson was likely competing for a starting returner job on special teams with a handful of others and could easily find himself in the same role with San Antonio. Vincent, the player who the Roughnecks acquired, has already been traded once in the NFL, played his college ball at LSU, winning a national championship in 2019 and going on to become the 7th-round pick of the Broncos. As a rookie, Vincent was flipped to the Eagles in exchange for a 6th-round pick in the 2022 draft, and he was most recently a member of the 49ers practice squad as early as September. Other news, a small wave of transactions, starting with the cuts. 4 players no longer listed on the Roughnecks official roster. Wide receiver Jake Herslow, wide receiver Chris Booker, cornerback Kevin Tolliver, and offensive tackle Shaquille Morris. 4 players that have now departed. 2 players have arrived to take up some available space. DB Cody Tippett and wide receiver Tavon Salter added to the roster there. Other news, Vegas Vipers signed former NFL veteran wide receiver Guillermo Allison. Let's see. Arlington Renegades signed 2-player, moved 2 to the reserve list. So the Renegades are signing wide receiver DB Rennell Hall, familiar face in alt football, out of UCF. Spent time with AAF, CFL, USFL, NAL, and XFL, as well as the Browns, Buccaneers, and Falcons. Arlington Renegades made the following transaction. They signed cornerback Nasir Greer and placed tight end Dominic Wood Anderson and wide receiver Cameron Brown on their reserved list. On to the Battlehawks. They bolstered their offensive line, bringing in USFL vet Dallas Warmack. We've had some guys moving back and forth, so Warmack is back to work. After 3 weeks of being released, Warmack finds himself in a pro league. After being released from the USFL's Memphis Showboats, recently signed with the Battlehawks for his second season in professional football. Warmack, whose brother is a former NFL first-round pick, is going into his second pro season and his first full season as a pro. Warmack signed by the Tampa Bay Bandits in May of 2022 after several injuries and filled a reserve role with the Bandits/Showboats for the final leg of the season. Prior to the USFL, Warmack played his college ball at Alabama and Oregon, starting 24 games in his college career. DC Defenders add defensive tackle Roderick Henderson to their active roster. Let's see. San Antonio Brahmas signed defensive lineman Javier Edwards. Continuing, DC Defenders signed NFL vet wide receiver Chad Hansen and cornerback Michael Joseph. Let's see here. Jazz Ferguson was a 4th-round selection by the Defenders in November. His hamstring injury is not believed to be season-ending. However, per XFL rules, if he is cleared to play later this year, since DC placed him off the active roster and onto the reserve list, he is free to sign with another XFL team if healthy. There you have it there. That was broken by our own Mike Mitchell. Houston Roughnecks add a former Super Bowl champion to their roster. The Roughnecks signed defensive end outside linebacker Tim Ward, boosting an already strong defensive line. Ward played his college football at Old Dominion, where he recorded 125 total tackles, 30.5 tackles for a loss, 14 sacks, and 8 pass breakups. After not being selected in the 2019 NFL Draft, signed with the Chiefs as an undrafted free agent, winning the Super Bowl, and with the team as a rookie. However, he spent the entire season on non-football injury and FI list. Made his debut with the Chiefs in 2020, recorded 5 tackles and a sack in his first game with the Chargers. Ward was waived during final roster cuts prior to the 2021 season. On to the next. And this is all in just the last week. Battlehawks make a trade with the Seattle Sea Dragons to release a player. So the Sea Dragons and St. Louis Battlehawks announced a trade. Seattle receives Kai Abshir, offensive tackle from Florida International. St. Louis receives Charlie Tuapenibio, tight end from Portland State. Yeah, I blew that. Let's see. Battlehawks also relieved defensive lineman Seth Walter, a former Ivy League player there. DC Defenders tweaking their roster from their season. The defensive, let's see here. So the Sunday and we already talked about that. So there was a trade. The Roughnecks DC sends defensive tackle Josh Avery to Houston for Ole Miss defensive end Tarquis Tisdale. Avery, a former Green Bay Packer, was selected by DC in the 4th round of the supplemental draft. Tisdale was drafted by the Roughnecks. Former JUCO standout Ole Miss player spent last summer with the Bengals as an undrafted free agent. Defenders trade Calvin Bryce to the Roughnecks for Merrimack standout lineman Sam Cooper as well. And those are the trades there. Mike Mitchell's got a full recap of that. Arlington Renegades signed defensive back Crevon LeBlanc. This kind of made some news. Let's see here. LeBlanc was a proven consistent performer in the NFL and had success in the league. Went undrafted in 2016, where he began his career with the Patriots, bounced around for the Bears, had 2 interceptions in 2016, played with the team through 2017, joined the Lions in 2018, played only 3 games. His breakout season came with the Eagles when they signed him in early November of 2018. He would play a key role in the Eagles, making the divisional round of the players with multiple injuries to the secondary. LeBlanc recorded an interception in their divisional round loss to the Saints, earned him a new contract with the team. He would play with the Eagles until 2020. So talk about getting richer. The Renegades feel like they have a stacked secondary that is filled with NFL experience and talent. Renegades coach Bob Stoops spoke highly of the performances of Josh Hawkins and Will Hill, both of whom consistently played in the NFL. LeBlanc feels like he'll do the same thing. I'm telling you, if I'm going to put money on anybody, I think the Arlington Renegades could be the team. They also signed Jake Molinich, move Isaac Nuda to injured reserve. And finally, DC Defenders announced a 3rd player trade in many days. The Defenders have acquired the rights to DB Cam Lewis from the Arlington Renegades in exchange for wide receiver Zamari Manning. So you see there was plenty of DBs and secondaries going on in Arlington, so they make a trade with Manning. And there you have all of the roster transactions that have been happening over the course of not very long, the last basically 7 days. And they should be more to come. Stay with XFL News Hub for all this news and releases and signings and so much more. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we're here with Dean Blandino, the Vice President of Officiating, Playing Rules, Innovation, the full title for the XFL. Dean, thanks you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I always ask my guests, the first question is, give us your superhero origin story. How did you get from a high school kid to, NFL officiating and to kind of the XFL?
Well, it's definitely a unique journey to most people that get involved in officiating. I didn't officiate on the field. It wasn't something that I was interested in as a younger person. I had played sports my entire life growing up and grew up in New York, the NFL. When I got out of school, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, they all have offices in New York City. I sent my resume to all of them, just hoping. I didn't know. I just knew that I love sports, and if I could find a career in sports, it would be incredible. The NFL called. They had a couple of internships available. I went and interviewed in a couple of different areas, and one was officiating, and they offered me the position. And I said, yes, absolutely, I'll take it. And that's kind of how it started. And I learned officiating, actually putting together training tapes for the officials. So I was just editing the tapes. And, they had former officials who were supervisors who would pick a series of plays to put together, whether it was offensive holding or defensive pass interference. They would give me that list, and I would go from game to game to edit that tape. And back then, the editing, it wasn't digital. So you had to take from one tape and record it to another, and you're watching it as it's happening. And I learned a lot of officiating through putting those tapes together, and then just became a passion of mine. And I've been doing it for the last 25 years.
Oh, wow. And so I have a little story of being an intern. I was interning because I'm from New York, and a sports station, I forget what it was called. And I had discovered this great wide receiver named Wayne Corbett, because I was always having to look at highlights from the college, which I think he went to Hofstra.
He went to Hofstra, which is where I went. And we overlapped. He was a little bit younger than me, but I think we might have been there a year or two at the same time. But yeah, that's Wayne Corbett is one, ended up being a really good player in the NFL.
Yeah. So that was I was like, this guy, he should get drafted. And they're like, no, he's too small. And then the rest is history there.
Yeah.
So talking about the XFL rules. So you were here in the 2.0 era. So can you kind of give us an idea of maybe what are some of the different rules heading into what we call the 3.0 era?
Sure. We felt like we have a real good foundation. Everything that went into 2.0, there was a lot of background work, a lot of input from different people, whether it was coaches, players, fans, media. And we feel like the set of rules in 2020 was really well thought out, and it worked well. Small sample size, but we really liked where we were in 2.0. So we didn't feel like we had to reinvent everything and make major changes just to change. But there were a couple of tweaks. We really liked the kickoff. That hasn't changed. That's such a different and unique look than what we're used to in any other level of football. But some timing rules, we're going to change. We're going to a 35-second play clock, which will be, the operation will be more what you're used to. The play will end and then the play clock will start. Whereas in 2.0, it was a 25-second clock, and it didn't start right away at the end of the play. It started when the ball spotter actually put the ball on the ground. So we feel like that's more of a flow that people are used to in terms of watching games. We are going to stop the clock in the last 2 minutes when a player makes the first down in the field of play. So that's basically, what the colleges do throughout the game. We're going to do it just in the last 2 minutes and give teams an opportunity to conserve a little bit of time. And we really want to promote that comeback, the last 2 minutes and closer games and things like that. We're going to add a fourth down option to retain possession in the fourth quarter only. So in addition to an onside kick, a team could elect in the fourth quarter, if the score is tied or they're behind, to go for a fourth down. You got to make it play, and it'll be from the 25-yard line. It'll be a 4th and 15. And if they make a first down, then the drive continues and they'll keep the ball. If they don't, then the defense takes possession, and it just gives the teams another option to retain possession. So, those are probably the major changes. We're really excited about the possibility of overtime. We didn't have an overtime game in 2.0, but the alternating tries from the 5-yard line. And we're just excited to get going here in a couple of weeks and see how these rules and some of the tweaks work out during the season.
So this fourth down one, if they don't get the fourth down, where does the ball spotted for the other team?
Wherever it ends up. So just like a fourth down play, if they gain 6 yards and don't make the first down, then the defense gets the ball at the end of the play. If the defense intercepts it and returns it for a touchdown, then just like they would in a normal fourth down play. So really, it just becomes a fourth down play that we've seen, and wherever the ball ends up, it ends up, and it could be a first down, could be the defense that gains possession, or could result in a score.
So one of the things in the 2.0 era was the idea of trying to get a game under 3 hours. Is that kind of an emphasis or not as much? Because, being at the game, by the time you went to get a drink or, get some food and you came back, you were already in the second quarter. So was that getting away from that or staying in that rule?
Well, I don't think we're as in terms of focused on game length. I think it's more about game flow and not as many interruptions. When you talk to football fans, and when I was at the NFL, we did a study with a lot of fans, and they don't necessarily dislike a longer game. If it's a good game, that's great. I'm really invested in the game and I'm interested. What they don't like is a lot of interruptions into the game, stops and starts and things like that. And I think that's what we're really mindful of, just limiting those stoppages in terms of, your commercial break pattern, and not having multiple breaks in a short window or too many replay stoppages, things like that. And we feel like with the 35-second play clock, with what we're doing with replay, with the ability to just communicate directly to the referee and not go over to the sideline and put on a headset, we feel like we'll maintain a good flow. And if we maintain that good flow, then the length of the game will take care of itself. But if you have a good flow, exciting games, a lot of back and forth, I think people are going to be watching.
So one of the things that has been talked about a lot, especially from player personnel people, is the offensive lineman. How that's probably the one position that is hard to find really great players, and those players end up in the NFL. So how does I know the USFL kind of wink, wink, nod, nod on holdings when unless it was completely blatant. How is the XFL going to handle kind of offensive line play?
Yeah, it's a great question. And obviously offensive lineman, it's so critical. Both the line of scrimmage is, most games are won and lost on the line of scrimmage. And you want to find quality people, quality players at all positions, but offensive line, obviously quarterback and the defensive line, that there's so much that goes on there that affect the outcome of games. And with whether it's offensive holding or really any foul, we want it to be clear. We don't want our officials to be overly technical. Fouls are important because fouls do a couple of things. You need to make sure that the game is being played safely, that it's being played fairly. And that's why officials throw flags, because to ensure that those things are happening. So we can't just let things go, but we want it to be there. We want officials to see the entire action. And when there is a clear foul, make the call, especially as it pertains to player safety, but specifically holding. As long as the offensive lineman maintains good feet, maintains good position, there's a certain amount of hands outside the frame that's allowable, and the NFL looks at it the same way. So we won't stray too far from that. We want the foul to be there to call it, and if the official isn't sure, don't throw the flag. And if we have to come back, and we'll evaluate our officials and give them feedback on a game by game basis, and we'll make the corrections when needed.
So what about like 1 foot in bounds versus 2 feet in bounds? It's always been the biggest distinction between really college football and the NFL. So you guys went with staying with the 1 foot in bounds?
Correct.
What's kind of the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think that goes back to 2.0 and all of our conversations about the rules. We felt that the college rule, a couple of things, right? It promotes offense because obviously it's easier to make a catch if it's just 1 foot versus 2 feet. And we actually felt it was an easier rule to officiate as well. You're not looking for that second foot and that time element now. It extends it. So we felt like any body part made a lot of sense. It promotes the offense. And look, we want a balance between offense and defense. It's not like we're sitting there saying we want games that are going to be 85 to 73. We want that balance because that's exciting. If you have a game where the defense can't make a stop, then that's not necessarily exciting either. You want that back and forth. But we felt like to promote the highlight reel types of plays, those types of things, those big plays, that the 1 foot made a lot of sense. And we feel like that's, we're in a good place with that.
So what about, did the NFL play any role in any of the current set of rules? I know there's kind of like the sharing of data between the two leagues.
Yeah, we've had good communication with the NFL and a collaboration, and we've talked to the NFL about are there rules that they're interested in terms of looking at for the NFL, and I think the fourth down conversion in the fourth quarter, that's something the NFL I know has talked about as you think about the onside kick and the safety of that play. We've had really good conversations with the NFL. We've got a good relationship with the officiating group in the NFL because all of our officials in the XFL will be college officials that the NFL is scouting. They have a development program that they use to hire new officials when they have openings in the league. And most of our officials will come from that program. We'll have NFL officiating position coaches, trainers be a part of our training and our evaluation. And I know the NFL is looking at, whether it's the USFL or the XFL, looking at some of the rules. And if they make sense for the NFL, they'll have those discussions with the NFL competition committee.
Do you think any of these rules in the next couple of years, especially when it comes to the kickoff, a lot of people are excited about the XFL kickoff. Do you think these rules will make their way up to the NFL in the next couple of years?
It could. I think the kickoff is definitely a possibility in terms of, because when we looked at the kickoff, the goal was to keep the return in the game. Both college and the NFL, less than 40% of kickoffs are returned, and both those groups have looked at. And I was a part of it with the NFL with the competition committee. The kickoff at during the course of the history of the game, it's had a higher rate at times of whether it's head neck injuries or other types of injuries. So you want to reduce the kick returns. And I think that's one of the things both the NFL and college has done. But we felt, let's keep the return in the game. It's such an exciting play, but let's make the play safer. and have the players 5 yards apart and have them downfield closer to where the ball is going to be returned from. So you don't get those long run ups. You don't have that, that high speed collision, and it's more of a normal scrimmage play. And it worked, in 2020 in terms of returns. 92% of all the XFL kickoffs were returned. And I think that's something the NFL will absolutely look at as they look at their kickoff play and the number of injuries and how that all plays out.
So my final question is kind of the state of officiating. So my kids are in high school, and we went to a recent event where they were talking about sports and kind of all that stuff. And the athletic director had mentioned the fact that they might have to, in the next couple of years, cut down on the number of high school football games or sports across the board, because the pool of officiator, people, umpires and across the board is getting smaller. As somebody who is dialed in with all, more than just the XFL and NFL, like, what's your take on kind of the future of officiating in the country?
It's definitely an issue. We are seeing numbers drop in terms of participation, and that's concerning, because when you think about the lower levels, right? If you don't have officials, you don't have games, and that's really important. We're seeing high school games get rescheduled where you can't play all your high school games on Friday night anymore because there just aren't enough officials to work all those games. So now you're seeing Thursday night, Wednesday, Saturday, those types of things. And the problem is we just don't have enough young people getting involved in officiating, or when they do get involved, they have a negative experience. And a lot of that revolves around whether it's parents or coaches, that interaction. And usually it's very negative. So if you have a young person that is trying to go out and officiate a youth game, and they have an adult that is verbally abusing them, we get a lot of people that they just don't want to do it. They're like, why am I going to go out and get abused when I could go do something else? And that's a real problem. And it's something that we're working on, and that outreach, and also providing mentorship opportunities for young officials, and just educating people in terms of the fans, the coaches, the parents. The players are usually, the kids are great, but it's the people that are watching sometimes that we forget that officials are people, right? And we see the stripes and we think, oh, it's okay to yell at them, when they're just people trying to do a job, and they're giving up their time so that these kids can play games. Because without these officials, we don't have games, and then we just, then it just becomes practice. So it's definitely an issue. We hope that we can start to get those numbers back up again.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought of, I think it was George Kittle had the tight ends day, and he kind of made I think we should have an officials day and celebrate that day, is just to thank the officials. That was kind of, when I saw that was my take. So
yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
So Dean, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on the program, and maybe we'll catch up after the season is and see how all these rules play out.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Mark.
All right, we're here with Courtney Jeffries, CEO of Virtual Tables. Courtney, thanks for being on the program.
Mark, thank you for having me. Thank you.
So explain to fans, what is Virtual Tables?
Right. Virtual Tables recognizes that while there are the best moments of fandom in person, not everybody can actually be there. And there's a huge remote population of fans, and this is true in sports, this is all entertainment, that don't have access to their fandom in person. So we've created a platform, we refer to it as the virtual venue of fandom, that teams, brands, even individual athletes can leverage to create in-person moments in a virtual setting for their fans.
So this is something that the XFL wants to roll out. What exactly, so how would the process work? This is, fans would sign up and then they get a virtual Zoom type call with a player? Like, how does it work?
Right. So the way that it works is every team in the XFL is going to have their own virtual venue. So each independent city, it's going to look like them. The branding is going to feel like them. It's going to feel like your team for who you're following. How they want to leverage this venue is entirely up to the team. So the way that fans can get involved is really just letting the teams know, but also activating with them. So think about this as a venue for meet and greets, one-on-ones with the players or even with the coaches. Think of it as a venue for chalk talks. I want to go and find out what the game plan is for the next game. I want to understand the post-game breakdown of what happened. How did that victory come about? How did that play come about? And anywhere and all in between. So What we think of is the ability to execute anywhere from a one-on-one to a 10,000 person fan fest. Fans can shop for merchandise. Fans can shop for tickets if they want. They can engage with a nonprofit with a donation or community relation component of a particular team. So this is meant to be a direct extension of the teams directly to the fan bases they're trying to appeal to.
So each team basically has their own web portal.
Yep. That's
And
right.
then it's up to the team to decide what can be in the web portal. So I could say, hey, I want to have a one-on-one with the quarterback of the DC Defenders.
There you go.
And it would go through that portal.
Yeah.
And then-
And as far as what the teams are trying to leverage for in terms of access, right? The XFL, and this is why we were so excited to partner with them, because the goals that the XFL has for fan engagement really looks like throwing the playbook out the window, so to speak. Like, they are trying to be innovative here and genuinely break down the traditional barrier that exists between a player and a fan base, right? And saying, hey, we're going to create this access for you guys, and we're going to do so in a setting that is convenient for you and can be more fruitful for what you guys want. And here's what we're starting with.
So like there's access to the players, they're like a virtual meet and greet. You know, there was something about like players signing something,
Yeah.
or like what's that?
The concept of a live autograph and being able to get a live autograph has only been available in person, right? There is not a digital component to this. We wanted to change that. So on our platform, a player is able to take a video clip of themselves or just a static image, and on any touchscreen device, autograph it and have that come through in real time on the screen of the fan directly. It can be personalized, it can be generic, and it can be made out to a family friend or a fan that couldn't be there, you know, in the event itself. But this notion that I want to get a live autograph from the player that I love is now available in a virtual setting.
And is this kind of like, what was it, Cameo or one of those services where they could be like, hey, this is so-and-so, happy birthday to Joe? Like, could they do that kind of stuff on this, or is it more in depth than just that?
Listen, No, we love that. Absolutely. Like, that's very available. We just think of Cameo as being more of a pre-recorded solution. It's still a virtual keepsake or a digital keepsake from a celebrity. We look at ours as a live live engagement for the fans and the players, as opposed to something recorded. But we love that comparison, candidly, because it just further shows that there is an industry here of digital keepsakes from a celebrity.
And then you also mentioned, so now there's like the player interaction, but you mentioned something about like post-game things, or like what's kind of in the works when it comes to that as far as the coaches behind the scenes?
So when you think about fan engagement and the best practices that currently exist, there's a lot of event types that get floated around for season ticket holders or families or just general fandom. Things like a chalk talk, where a coach is going through the game plan and explaining, you know, the strategy for winning, or explaining the strategy for the draft, or how they're putting the team together. Again, up until now, all of those events have needed to be in person. We can replicate that. We can have that availability where the coach is walking you through game film and explaining what's going on. Fans are able to submit questions, raise their hand, engage directly with the coach while this is going on. So again, just stretching the current execution. I mean, our position, right, is we're not trying to be in competition with the in-person event. That is a tried and true component of any live entertainment industry. We're simply saying that there is a overwhelming majority of the fans that won't be able to be there in person for a number of reasons. And so why isn't there a compelling virtual extension of that? Why aren't we looking more at engaging? Because the overwhelming majority of fans aren't going to be able to come to a game. So let's deliver a platform that fans find very compelling, but also that the teams can leverage for business, right? So that the teams can say, hey, listen, we want to offer you more exclusive opportunities and engagements because it's more flexible.
So what other sports leagues have you partnered with aside from the XFL?
We do some work in Formula One racing. One of the other major leagues that we work with is Athletes Unlimited. That's a very much kind of a made for TV league for the women's sports, right? And so we're able to support the teams directly, but the players can actually create their own events as well. The players can go out to their own following and say, hey, listen,
I'm going to show you a throwing clinic, during softball, and they can capitalize on their opportunity to do that. We think this is a pretty big opportunity in this college space as well, right? With the student athletes and their new NIL capabilities. And then candidly, we've looked well beyond sports. I mean, right now, there's an opportunity to engage authors that do self-publishing or do book signings. We think of this for, most esports are already a virtual audience. So how can we provide them with tools for greater and further engagement? We think of this working in the music business, whether it's with concerts and festivals, or even in just the music label, developing upcoming talent and wanting them to have access to, their global fan base. So pretty exciting stuff, but well beyond sports.
Oh, interesting. And so how long has the business been around for?
Yeah, Virtual Tables has been around for a couple years. It started as a bit more of a pandemic solution for nonprofit galas and fundraisers. When I joined, there was an opportunity to take it as a bit more of a sports and entertainment feel, because there were some very distinguishing factors that made this different than, the current sort of virtual platforms. For example, we're talking on a Zoom platform right now. This is great for what we're doing. It's not really optimal for fans, right? I don't know that this belongs to a particular brand. I'm not able to shop for the merchandise. I'm not able to do much more than just video chat. We wanted to say there is more engagement to be had.
And then how did you get involved with this company?
Yeah, my background, actually, I'm a recovering sports executive myself. So I spent quite a bit of time with the Oakland Raiders. That should tell you how long ago that was. Briefly was with the Pac-12 conference, and then I was with Madison Square Garden for a number of years.
All right, New York.
Yeah, that's right, New York or nowhere. I was the VP of retention for Knicks, Rangers, and Liberty. Most of my roles were in, fan engagement, ticketing, in-venue experience. And then I like to say I threw my career away to chase down startup life. But it's there's just such an opportunity with tech startup to explore the shortcomings that the current solutions have, right? And to be able to provide a meaningful solve for real problems. And in the case of sports, there's 3 billion fans worldwide. And if you do some simple math, you're going to realize that there's only room for 5% of them in stadiums and arenas in the United States. So what are you going to do for everybody else? And I'll tell you, what's interesting, Mark, is we know that we should care because you've got streaming services, you've got social media, there's articles written about what's going on, and all of those talk at fans, right? I mean, they really are one-way communication tools, as opposed to finding something that has a bit richer of an experience for the fans to say, like, I was at this event, I'm engaging with the team that I love or the player that I love so much in a virtual setting.
Interesting. And so how did you guys get involved with the XFL? Did they reach out to you? You reach out to them? How did that connection work?
One thing I love about sports is it's a phenomenal league for copycat and best practices, right? I mean, as opposed to some other industries that really want to share what works across teams. And it's an industry built on relationships. And I was grateful to have worked with a number of former Madison Square Garden executives that are now at the XFL, and we got to talking and say, hey, listen, I think this could really help. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's, part of the, allure of some of the people in the upper management is their connections to the NFL. So it makes sense that, and we've heard over and over again that the space is small. Everybody knows everybody, at least in the football world, which is kind of interesting. And I guess this is all tied into how the XFL kind of wants to have their product be different and more unique because of this kind of connection with fans. So do you have any idea when this is going to be rolled out? I mean, we're less than 20 days or so from XFL kickoff. Do you have any kind of clue when it's going to come out?
We actually have had a couple events on platform. The teams are getting familiar with the technology. I wouldn't, the rollout is entirely up to them, but it's up to the teams, right? So each of them has their own venue. And I will tell you, when you partner with a league like the XFL, we are expecting them to come back to us and say, hey, listen, we actually want to do A, B, and C. How do we get that done? And I'm looking forward to them really pushing the envelope and saying, here's how we want to be innovative and further break down this barrier that exists, and let's do this, right? So step one is rolling out the venue. Step 2 is getting comfortable. And then, I really expect these guys to really establish the best practices for what we execute.
Great. All right. Well, Courtney Jeffries, thank you so much, CEO of Virtual Tables. And now the fans understand, and now I understand more. And I'm pretty excited to see how this rolls out. As a technology guy, I'm definitely interested in this stuff. So it's exciting stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Mark, you've been awesome. I appreciate being on the show. Thank you.
All right, we're here with Brian Herrion, DC Defenders running back. Brian, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we got a chance to meet. You were down at the DC Defenders event this past weekend. I always like to ask my guests, like, give us your superhero origin story. How did you get from high school kid to playing football at University of Georgia and then making your way to the XFL?
Shoot, it was really a long progress, but to make it shorter a little bit, I guess in high school, I didn't have the grades at first to get into UGA or like big schools. I had to get my grades up for a little bit. And then once I got my grades up, Coach Smart gave me a scholarship to go to UGA. And once I got there, played a little bit freshman year, played all through my years at Georgia. And then I ended up going to the Browns. And then since then, I kind of just been working out really. And then I got a chance to come play in this. So the opportunity to come back here and be able to get a chance to get back to the league and just play football again that's my biggest thing right now.
So you were played for the Browns for a little bit, and then did you watch the XFL, as we call it, the 2.0 era at all?
I've seen a couple games of it. I didn't really watch it that much though.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
So you made your way, so then you get drafted this year. What's kind of the difference? I mean, you played at let's talk about Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they're a juggernaut. I was at the Georgia Florida game this year because one of my daughters goes to Jacksonville University, and I thought that game against Florida was closer than this TCU game. Like, what's your reaction to the basically now Georgia Bulldogs is like the powerhouse in college football?
I mean, Coach Smart is just amazing, and he's great at developing players. So I mean, right now, I don't think it's a team that can beat them, but I feel like SEC play is just a little different. It's grown man football. It's like the next thing in NFL, and it's man on man and hold your gap. So when you play an SEC school against the SEC school, I think the games will always be a little better. Even though Georgia still probably take care of most of them by far, but it's just I guess just the way the game is played in those games.
So what's it like then playing a big program like Georgia? You played a little bit with the Browns, and then now having training camp with the XFL. Like, what's the difference?
Honestly, Georgia was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. So everything else has been pretty good after that. I mean, pretty much the same. I've learned everything I learned at Georgia, so it got me prepared to go when I went to the Browns or even here. I'm pretty much picking up on everything the same way we did at Georgia. They kind of taught us NFL pro style offenses and stuff like that. Everything we did was pro style, so it's kind of the same.
Now, so how is doing? So then you kind of make your way. You're playing in the XFL with the DC Defenders. Then you were on this trip where you got to come out to DC. Have you ever been to Washington DC before?
Nah, I've never been anywhere out there, but it was nice though.
So what was that experience like going on? You were on television and radio, and what was that like?
I mean, it was cool. I never really been on the radio, just going to the radio station and talking and having a conversation on there like that. So it was definitely a good time. And we even got to go to one of the high schools out there where a lot of the players, there's a lot of NBA players that come out of the high school. DeMatha High School out there is a Catholic school. Yeah, a lot of good players come out of there. We went to one of those games, and then we went down to the National Harbors over there at the Public House, and then we had the fan event there.
Yeah,
it was all nice. It was all a good time. It was cold though. It was cold.
Yeah. So what was it like for you when you signed on to play with the XFL? I mean, people, associate the XFL with The Rock. What was that reaction to you? I mean, basically getting a chance to extend your career, and then now part of this, the third rebirth of the XFL, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's name is behind it.
I mean, just getting a chance to be able to get back into the NFL and play football again, the opportunity and all of those things means a lot to me and my family. With Dwayne the Rock Johnson, you know, we all talk about Fast and Furious and the movies he played in and stuff like that. So it's cool to be around somebody like that, and it's a great thing that he's doing to give people an opportunity because he also has been in these situations before in his life.
Yeah. So, and have you had a chance to meet him yet at all?
Nah, not me personally. I have not.
Oh, so if you've noticed him on social media, he did kind of hint that he could be at the DC Defenders game. Just want to throw that out there, the home game, the first one. I don't know. He
So that
said
means
it's
we gotta
something.
show
He's
out,
like, I'll
huh?
see you at the game. He kept saying, I said that to two different DC Defenders fans. So,
Okay. Okay, that means we got to show out now.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Especially it's gonna be a national television at night and
Yeah.
whatever. So did you ever think about playing in leagues like the USFL or CFL? Did any of those ever kind of come on your radar?
I mean, sometimes a lot of people ask me to think about like the CFL and stuff like that. I thought about USFL. I was gonna do the USFL, but I just kept training and stuff, and was just waiting and seeing what was gonna happen and stuff, talking to different people, and then opportunity like this came, so I just took it.
So what's training camp been like? I mean, this is kind of a little different because you're sharing space. I think it's with the Battle Hawks.
Mhm.
Everybody's kind of housed in one area. So what's training camp like for the DC Defenders?
I mean, it's pretty much the same as any other training camp. I mean, we don't see another team in the hotel or anything like that. I think we're all in different hotels, but I think like our strength coach, you know, works out their team too. That's just like the only thing like that. But it's regular training camp. You leave from the hotel, you go to the field, you work there, you work out. I mean, you practice, you come back, meetings. It's camp style.
And so what's your reaction? I mean, so it's typical training camp, but the league is set up a little differently where you're going to be basically traveling for every single game, whether it's a home game or away game. So what's kind of the consensus about doing that?
A lot of us wish that we were in Washington like during the season, but I mean it really doesn't make a difference. It's either way it's gonna be a business trip. So we just look at it like we go to home game for 2 days and then we fly back and then we go to away game for 2 days and then we come back. But either way, we just looking at it as a business trip.
That's good. And then, so you think the team is looking, I mean, so I always call them DC Defenders as America's team. It really is because it is at the heart, it's in the capital, Washington, DC. So it should be America's team. And I always tell fans who don't want to know what team they should root for. I say DC because that's the nation's capital. How is the team
Yeah.
looking compared to, you playing with powerhouse like Georgia? How's the DC Defenders team compared? Do you think the DC Defenders could take on the Georgia Bulldogs?
Oh, absolutely. Without a chance. I mean, we got a couple Bulldogs on this team, so I mean, we'll do pretty good. We got a couple SEC players, a couple players we all played against in all conferences, and we know that these players can play.
So what's typical day for you then? So you get up at like 7:00, you eat breakfast, head over the bus
Yeah.
to the practice.
So
What does
we
that look
probably
like?
get up about 5:50, 6:00, 6:10. Got a meeting at 6:30. Special teams, we'll go to a special teams meeting. After the special teams meeting, we'll leave, go offense or defense, depending on the day. Whoever went first, we'll have a workout, and other people will just get ready for practice. And then we'll have practice, and then we'll come back, have lunch, and we'll go have meetings at 1 or something, 1 or 4. Then we'll come back and have dinner about 5:30, and then we'll have sometimes walkthroughs, and then we'll be done. We'll just be
Wow.
chilling after that.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it'd be like a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's to prepare. I mean, have you ever had to prepare this short of a window for a football season? I mean, usually, when you're in college, you're kind of working out with the team throughout the whole year. This is kind of like January, here's a couple
Right
weeks,
now.
get it together and go.
Yeah. Nah, it's never been this quick, but like I said, like at Georgia, like we did all this stuff and it was a lot more like crazier, harder. It was just hard, man. Georgia was hard. It really got you ready. So nah, it's not that bad.
So what do you guys typically do on the off days there? I mean, you really don't have a lot of time. You guys play video games, watch TV shows. Like what's kind of like the typical like team bonding stuff that you guys do? If you even have time, because it sounds like
Well,
you don't.
No, off day. On off day, we don't really have too much to do. Off day, we just have like dinner. I mean, like breakfast, and then that'll be it for real. And then everybody can do whatever they want to do for the rest of the day. A lot of us like just chill. Some people chill. Some people go play and get some food. Some people just play the video games. They play video games like in between the days, like in between breaks and stuff like that. So they kind of just do whatever.
So are you a video game player or?
I used to be. I will play the video game, but I left my game. My cousin stays out here like 25 minutes away, so I left my game over there at his house so he could play it. But I don't really want to play it right now because if I did, I probably wouldn't pay attention to anything.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I got 5 simple rapid fire questions for fans to get you a Brian Herrion from DC Defenders running back. We'll have 5 questions, fans to get to know you. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, what's your favorite movie?
Ooh,
you could suck up to The Rock.
Friday.
Friday?
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, some team-related questions. Who is the strongest player on the team?
I don't know that yet.
You don't know that yet? What about
I'm gonna say me?
Okay, we'll say that for now.
I'm gonna say me.
Who is I think you're gonna say you too. Who is the fastest player on the team?
Ooh, I don't know. It's a lot of fast people on the team, so I don't know. Probably, I can't answer that one.
Okay.
Maybe Rockwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
What position does he play?
He played running back too.
Okay.
Or
okay.
AP running back too. I feel like it's all the running backs at this point. All the running backs are the fastest.
Are the fastest than the DBs?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, you heard it here. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
So, favorite TV show in the last year? Ever since COVID, everybody's kind of binge watching
Yellowstone.
Stuff. Yellowstone. All right. I have not seen that one yet.
Yep.
I keep hearing good things about it.
Just started watching Yellowstone.
All right. And then the final question, we'll wrap this up. If you could have dinner with anyone famous, dead or alive, who would it be? It took me a little while to think about this one.
I really already had the answer in my head. I think it's just Tupac.
Tupac would be it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, Brian, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for in between, training and all that stuff. Of course, DC is my team. DC Defenders is my team, and we cover all of it on XFL News Hub. So I appreciate you taking the time, and good luck this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
You left 2018. You left to become the commissioner of the XFL, the second version of that. There's going to be a third version coming up here soon that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is putting together. But I know it didn't leave a great taste in your mouth. But what was it that attracted you to the XFL, and something that was going well until the pandemic hit?
Well, the attraction there, I think, was pretty straightforward. It's rare that there's an opportunity to start a professional league from scratch. I did it over in Europe, probably one of the few people that had a second chance at doing that. And you're right. The second version of the XFL started off very well. We had 5 weeks of play, had solid TV numbers from Fox and ESPN, had aside from New York, had really good attendance at the various venues. I thought the quality of play was pretty good. We had some pretty good players, kids like PJ Walker, who started a bunch for the Panthers. Taylor Heineke was a backup quarterback in St. Louis. He couldn't even break the starting lineup there, but he's done very well down in DC. We had some solid players, but COVID hit in like virtually every activity. That put a damper on everything, and we had to suspend and then postpone the league. I hope the third time is the charm. For the XFL, I think spring football, because it's football, because Americans love to watch football, I think spring football does have a future. You do need deep pockets to fund it. There's actually 2 alternative leagues, spring leagues, that will be competing this spring. The XFL, which I think kicks off right after the Super Bowl, and then the USFL, which launched last year but doesn't start, I think, until maybe April. Fox owns that product. So we'll see how it works, but Americans love watching football. There are enough quality players outside of the NFL, I think, to have a competitive league. I don't know if there's enough players for 2 spring leagues, but if the game has gotten really so good, and there's so many talented players that don't have a chance in the NFL. They might be a little bit too small, too slow, whatever. But I think that there's a good chance that this spring you'll see one of those leagues really get established and have a viable business pathway. And quite honestly, I think the NFL could use a league that is continuing to develop players. You add one more game like they did, and I think I saw a statistic towards the end of the season that a record number of quarterbacks were starting quarterbacks in the NFL during the course of the year. Some teams were down to their second, some teams down to their third team guy. And, quarterback is such a critical position. Just the idea of developing 8 quarterbacks or a dozen quarterbacks in an alternative spring league like the XFL or the USFL should be very attractive to the NFL. Because without good quarterback play, a National Football League game just isn't that interesting. We have to kind of be honest. It's such a unique position, and you need as many, talented, capable players as possible at that position.
All right, my friends, we are back. I want to thank in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Again, his link is also in the show notes. Check out the full interview he did with Oliver Luck. It's about an hour long and goes through all sorts of stuff. But then, of course, there's that little part about the XFL, and that's the first time I think we've really heard Oliver Luck's take on the current state of the XFL since his little fallout with Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So that's in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Appreciate using that clip, and definitely check out our show notes, and you can watch the full interview on there. All right, my friends, again, smash the like button. We got 20 likes. That's it. We need to get to 60 likes. What's up, chat room? How's it going? Lots of action going on in the chat room. Philip is in the house. Paladin has made it there. Denzel, what's up? This is let's see. Chris is in the house. Van from on Facebook says, Mark, did you see the Vipers ticket info? Yes, apparently the Vipers ticket info is back. I believe I took your tweet and retweeted it. So Vipers singles game tickets are out there, available right now. Chris says Dany is smart, no doubt. Going back to Dany Garcia's thing in the beginning. That was really interesting, and that made me I've been talking to a lot of people that work with the XFL, people that are in the XFL, and I was always kind of leery when it comes to what's going on. I'm like, the ticket, the all stuff with Vegas, the schedule took too long. What are these people going to do when they're not working? And everybody I've talked to is like made me feel real secure. And even hearing Dany Garcia say, hey, we know 3 to 5 years we're going to be losing money. Like, we signed up for this, and we know that it's going to happen. But the long run, I think, if you could make this work for whatever they purchased the XFL for and whatever they put in, they could probably get that back per team. If these teams are worth billions of dollars in the NFL, then clearly an XFL franchise could be worth at least $100 million. You know what I mean? If you put $200 million into the league to get it off for the next 2 or 3 years, and then you could sell each franchise for $200 million or $100 million, I think you're in pretty good shape. Let's see. Philip says she really sounds smart. I think this league is doing well. Samuel from Facebook says, bring Luck to the United States Football League. I was thinking, I was like, is Luck or oh geez, the former president, the name totally escapes me now. It will come to me. Oh geez, the former president of the XFL or an Oliver Luck heading to the United States Football League, Jeffrey Pollock. Our guys, then we threw that name out there. Paladin says, would like more games on regular TV, though. From the schedule, the kickoff game is the only game I can catch without road trip to St. Louis. Don says, Paladin, make a road trip to St. Louis. The atmosphere is amazing. Definitely on that. the schedule, I mean, everything. Remember, this is season 1, and they're just kind of figuring things out and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Year 2, year 3, if this thing hits, then I don't think it'll be a problem getting more TV time. But yeah, I agree. So trust me, when it comes to traffic to our website, if it's on broadcast television like ABC, the numbers are huge. When you get on ESPN, they come down. FX will come down even lower. I'll tell you, just having CFL games on ESPN versus ESPN Plus makes a difference. And I will tell you what else. During both games, when the Fox mentioned the USFL, because we did a little USFL coverage before we switched over to USFL News Hub. When those commercials hit, I mean, I was at my friend's house, and I was, because of making sure, because there's still like XFL stuff going on. And so we were watching the game. I had my laptop, and I was showing them. I was like, take a look. And this is what the traffic was before. Here's when the commercial just came on, and it's just like explodes. And so I totally know how all that kind of works. Samuel says on Facebook, Houston Roughnecks is winning the South Division, the unfinished business from 2020. All right. Then we'll see. I was surprised June Jones wouldn't be back. But again, remember, this is 3 years later. He's a little bit older. Having him as an offensive coordinator, I think is great. Rookie_X4 says, as Roughnecks fans, and I know early, but I'm worried about the tickets not being sold out. Look at Orlando Guardians, Ticketmaster. The one side of the stadium is being sold out. It's going to take a little while. They definitely got a late start to the ticket push and the hype train. I mean, I believe that there was more of a hype train last time. I think as the games are played, I think the momentum will build. Remember, these guys a lot of them were there in the beginning, and they're like, hey, we don't need to do this. This is what we need to do going forward. I think they'll be all right. That is for the chat room. Lots of chats in there. Samuel says, IFL team for me is the Green Bay Blizzard. Green Bay Blizzards are a good team as well. I'm excited for indoor football. I always forget that too. You have the XFL, USFL, and then you have indoor football, fan control football, which, by the way, did you hear that fan control football had one of their tryouts canceled in Florida? And I haven't been able to hear what was going on there. So just putting that out there, that was a thing. Renee says, can you put English subtitles, please? How do you do that on Twitter or on the YouTubes? I'm not really sure how to do that. All right, let's go on to your social media stuff. Oh, and also remember that event that's happening at the DC Defenders Nighthawk Brewery and Pizza at Pentagon Row is happening this Saturday. Make sure you're RSVP'd. The plan is that I will be there as well. Always just come up and say hello. I want to meet fans. I met fans every single event, and I enjoy just kind of getting to know you guys, really. Appreciate all the support that you guys have given us at XFL News Hub throughout the years. It's been nice. All right, on to the Facebooks. Before we wrap up this long show, I get to hang out with my wife, find out how apparently the kids swim well, but it looks like we lost. Just want to put that out there. She just got back from the event. About the Vegas Vipers and Brian Scott officially part ways. Ronald says back to the Philadelphia Stars, which is great because he was so good and both leagues need talent. And Steven says good luck with that. I have a feeling he's going to make his way back to the USFL. Battlehawks make a trade with the Sea Dragons. Clayton says very confusing article. I don't know why. I don't really understand, but okay. Steven says, I feel like this story is written completely backwards. The tight end is coming to St. Louis, and the O-line is headed to Seattle, according to the tweet from the league. Oh, come on. Matt says, incredible trade. The Brahmas need to make a trade for Martavis Bryant. Always forget about him and Josh Gordon as two names in the fantasy world. About Paxton Lynch signing with the Orlando Guardians. Chad says, last hurrah, maybe he can resurrect his career. However, training camp is half over. And that is going to definitely impact where he kind of lands but this guy's a pro. I think he'll probably be the day one starter. And again, the books have kind of the Guardians as in the last place. And then all of a sudden they bring in Paxton Lynch. It's like, Jeffrey says, well, he got cut from the Michigan Panthers. I think you need to hang it up. I believe, yeah, I think was he was cut, how he made his way to the XFL. I mean, because he was in the Alumni Academy too, I think. So whether he was cut or not, I mean, he's in the XFL. About the way too early rankings, where is DC first round pick QB? What are you talking about? Jordan Ta'amu. De'Ara King, he was on there. Oh, was he not even on that list? Yeah, he was. Any major platforms for having fantasy football? Yes, Stetson. News Hub Fantasy. Did somebody put that in there? What's the reply? Good question. I'm wondering the same. Stand by. I will put it in there for them. Hold on. There you go. News Hub Fantasy. Tamo should be a Battlehawk, Matt. No, you don't know what you're talking about. He should be with the DC Defenders. Austin says a solid list, but King needs to go up 2 spots. Okay. Chris says, so what? Why does Washington get Seattle's QB? Because we're awesome. Murray says, watch out for Eric Dungy. Shouldn't have been left off the list. Again, this is going to be hard to predict because remember, in the beginning of the XFL 2.0 era, we had the quarterbacks, but by week 4 or 5, it was switching up. So it's going to be a crapshoot. That's why when it comes to DFS and these other things, just follow the offensive coordinators to start. If Tamu had been put back at St. Louis where he belonged, would be selling the top level of the dome by now. Maybe he didn't want to play in St. Louis. Frank says, good analysis. Thank you very much, Frank. Appreciate that. Of course, in the Houston Roughnecks, they had a Super Bowl champion to the roster. He has the XFL season started yet? Thank you very much, Brad. No, it hasn't. Come on February 18th. Looking forward to a stellar season. What's the Trevor says, what's the XFL championship called? How about the Finn the Dog Trophy? Finn the Dog Trophy is my first vote. Of course, Finn, by the way, is my dog's name. Just putting it out there. About Brian Scott being out. D. Roderick 205 says need to sign with San Antonio ASAP. And the real go get the paper box boy. Okay, we all know that Brian Scott did not want to play in the XFL period, point blank. Why opt out of re-signing with USFL? I don't know. I think he'll make his way back to the USFL. Kind of. That's my hunch. Fred JMZ _1776 San Antonio Brahmas all the way. About our question, chat room, real quick. Who's winning the South Division? You have the Renegades, Roughnecks, Guardians, and Brahmas. You got your 3 Texas teams and Orlando. He's got San Antonio. I'm telling you right now, it's the Renegades. They are stacked with talent. I believe it's the Renegades. Let us know in the chat real quick in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, who's winning the XFL South Division. Also, let us know in the comments as well. We want to hear your thoughts there. On the YouTube or on the, we did Twitter's next. About our special guest, Nate said, I added a review to your podcast. Hope it came through. Couldn't tell if you did or not. Looking forward to the interview with Dean. Thank you very much, Nate. Thank you very much. You're a good man. God bless you. Leaving us a good review. We have been getting like all sorts of, it's so funny. This happened the last time we did this. From friends and foes, or supposed friends and foes, everybody. It's like all of a sudden all this hate like comes out, whether it's directed at me or directed at one of our writers. And it's like, it's just so funny. And it's, and remember, at the end of the day, it's all about supporting the alt football world, whether it's XFL, USFL, and, you know, you can be fans with one and not the other, but like, we all have so much going on in our lives, like enough with no drama. But hey, and you don't faze me. This happened to me before. I got crazy phone calls, crazy messages, crazy people telling people other stuff. You know, it's quite comical. And I know the point, I think, because we're making things happen. And that's a good thing. The crazies come out. The jealous comes out. Hell yeah, 81 had this great post. The XFL officially suspended operations March 20th, 2020. It has been 1,046 days since. 19 days. Who's ready? Get the beer, Snake. Yes, I have a bunch of people friends and associates, people that know who I am, now they're starting to kind of get the whole XFL thing, and they want to come to games, and they're looking at season tickets. And, now that we're getting closer, the interest is just going to crank up. It's unfortunate. I hope. I haven't heard, and I should ask if the XFL is going to have a Super Bowl commercial. They did before. Now, this is on Fox. So I don't know if Fox would put on an XFL commercial. Clearly, there's going to be a USFL commercial, which will have traffic go through the roof. I wonder if they're going to do a XFL commercial at some point. I heard it's $7 million to have a Super Bowl commercial. And really, you should. Well, I mean, but you have the pre-show with on ESPN. You need to drop it all over the place and talk about the XFL because it'll be the next week. Let's go to the YouTubes. Jesse says, why do you think who would win between the top college teams like Bama, Georgia, Ohio State against the XFL teams? I mean, we'll see whoever the XFL champion is. I asked Brian Herrion, a former Georgia Bulldog himself, that same question. So, and you hear his thoughts. He thought that the XFL, but even Georgia, I mean, I don't know. The Brahma Bulletin 4302 says, regarding you being amateur hour, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Just started his own channel covering Brahmas called Brahma Bulletin. It's amateur hour my way, then hour way more than you. Keep doing what you're doing and have advice for a fellow amateur. I'll take it with immense gratitude. Just keep grinding. Here's the thing with a lot of folks when it comes to some of this stuff. They start podcasts. They're going to start this that aren't just consistency. That's the main thing. And just trying to make a little improvements over time. We have definitely not hitting the ground rolling like we want to. This is phase one. We've been waiting and waiting for all these leagues to come into fruition. We have the XFL, we have the USFL, and we'll have the CFL. This season is phase one with all the ideas that we have, and then, with fantasy football. Year 2, we upgrade. Year 3, we upgrade more. And there's a kind of battle plan that's already set in motion. And, we're just about to hit it in 3 weeks. But yeah, I mean, studio and producers and editors and all sorts of stuff, once we kind of see what everything looks like when it comes to the XFL for XFL News Hub. A homeless cop, that's not very nice. Cacaw. The Norseman 3438 says you're doing great. Thank you so much. James Mesner 6004 says, great show, Mark. I only hope that the podcast grows alongside the league that we all love. It has been. Our numbers have been looking good. We're looking good. One of the problems this past month, more than a month, apparently the site was loading really slow. And I thought it would go away, and it didn't. There was something we had to configure in the back end. Now it's loading fast. So we lost out on tons of traffic because the site was loading slow. Sky Morgan 200 says, I don't know how spoiled some people are, but I enjoy how you do your show. I look forward to this as much as the XFL season. Oh, thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with how you do your show. You're letting people know what's going on, and that's awesome. Don't ever stop doing you, my friend. Go Renegades. Thank you, Sky. Appreciate that. Badger Gurdon 7080. Mark, I always thought you were professional in the way you present your show. I've been watching it ever since I first discovered it in 2021. I like you, Brandon Anderson, comeback period. Used to work here at XFL News Hub. Mike Mitchell, Reed Johnson from Markcast, and last but not least, the USFL podcast with the ref and Zach Kellerman, who I met, by the way, at the USFL championship game. Got a chance to talk to those guys. Cool guys. Appreciate them and all they do. Fan of both leagues. Go Sea Dragons and Breakers. See, we can all get along. We can all get along. Met them. It's cool. By the way, we started back up monthly USFL podcast and brought back the CFL podcast. So basically the USFL USFL Week in Review, CFL Week in Review will be monthly until the season gets closer. Then we'll go weekly. This podcast, most likely, we're going to probably go twice a week during the XFL season and then crank it back to one. And then, probably do, because at that point, once the season's over, there's going to be at least a month or so. It's quiet. It's the summertime. That we'll kind of check in periodically, probably do a once a month thing until the XFL kind of cranks back up. But that's kind of how the cadence will go, because there's only so much time to be able to do so. Badgerton also said people shouldn't say bad stuff about Mike Mitchell. I actually want to console him because his New York Jets basically threw their promising season away in 2022. God bless Mark. Oh, yes. Say some prayers, Mike Mitchell. Hey, he might not be too upset if Green Bay's quarterback, whose name escapes me right this second, I can't believe it, Aaron Rodgers, Tuesday, thinking Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee. We'll talk about him. Film Shaker Chris, 24 days till XFL kickoff. Best video cast and editorial out there. Thank you very much. Yes, everyone has the same info released to report, but you report it your way, the Defenders way. Keep trucking, bro. Try to call a DC Defenders game with Reed in Seattle, or Battlehawks game with Dirty, or Arlington game with A-Train, a cross-league Houston Roughnecks game with the ref. LOL, yeah. Hopefully we kind of meet, I can't wait to kind of get out and about and kind of meet, all these kind of influencers out there. I'm looking forward to doing that during the season. Kevin Willett said, I'm super excited for the season. I got 2 tickets for the DC Defenders, bought 3 jerseys. Let's do this. By the way, I'm a programmer too. Looks like the smart people are supporting the XFL. That was very good. I'm a C# developer myself, Microsoft C#, but got his tickets to 3 jerseys. I haven't gotten a jersey yet, though I did get my wife a surprise gift. I wonder when it's going to come. Joshua 1986 says, screw that guy, that Ryan guy. You do Perry. Thank you very much. Mr. XO Warrior says, ignore the USFL trolls. There's just a couple of them. And there's XFL trolls too. Use Farland 5096. Go Guardians. Yeah, there's first of all, like if you're getting all like bent out of shape about spring football and who's better and who's not, and you suck, and you're just wasting your time, man. Do something fun. You know what? I started playing PGA Tour golf. I got that on the Xbox. It's kind of like my I'm like super football guy, and I kind of like decompress on that part. All right, let's get to the emailers. We got a bunch of emails. Let's see here. First up, James checking in said, Mark, hundreds showed up at the Battlehawks with Battlehawks players. There is no doubt St. Louis will contend for attendance title this year. I think San Antonio and Seattle will also be a factor. All the best. God bless. James checking in. Yes, James. I heard it was 1,100 for the Battlehawks thing at the Armory. Very cool there. God bless to you, James. Tim checking in says, it's been a while since my last correspondence. I was at the Battlehawk Fan Fest, and it was slammed. I saw Mike Mitchell's ranking, and I was shocked by his ranking, but it will be fun proving him wrong. I've been working on possible team mascot. What do you think of my support dog, Groot, in his Battlehawks attire? Very nice. He's got a little dog there with his little Battlehawks helmet. Your show is great and don't get you down. My boys at St. Louis all listen to you and appreciate your efforts. By the way, Ricky Pro is our wide receivers coach, Tim. And I think Tim was the one that sent me that video about Ricky Prohl's catch. And that was very cool. I think it was Tim. Appreciate that. And I like your dog's. It's not a good looking as my Finn dog, but he's a good looking dog. But I didn't put it. I'm not gonna put it on there. But maybe next time. James says, Mark, always appreciate XFL News Hub. Below is what's left of the dome. Lower bowl holds 30,000, and St. Louis still has close to 2 months left before the season opener. 4 words come to mind right now. Open the upper bowl. If you're coming for DC game in St. Louis, you'll be will be most welcome by all Battlehawks fans. God bless, James. Yeah, I mean, he sent a thing. I mean, there's not a lot of tickets. There's not a lot of tickets, broskies. Don checking in says, could call my friend. I have a couple things I'd like to get off my chest. Okay, you may do that. First, the preseason quarterback rankings are out, and I noticed that the QB that you poached from us, hey, what can I tell you? Jordan Tamu is ranked number 1. The Battlehawks have greater depth and experience. The number 4 and 6 slots, A.J. McCarron and Ryan Willis, respectively. Jordan, know that all the Battlehawks Nation wishes you great success when you reach the NFL, but we hope you stink it up in your return to the Battle Dome on March 18th. He will not. We are good. We are good. Don't worry about that. Listen, Jordan, don't even listen to this guy. Don't listen to Don. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay? He's had too much cacaw. He's had too much cacaw. The second thing I want to talk about is season 2 and 3 and beyond. Yes, this is something that concerns me too. I know season 1 hasn't started yet, but now is the time the league should plan for future drafts. In a league with one ownership group, free agency does not exist, so rebuilding can only be done in the draft. In a league with one ownership group, the league should probably work like a fantasy league. You have to wipe the roster clean each year, or you may allow for a certain number of keepers, whatever. But no matter what, it would be best to some sort of announcement now because it's about it, because no matter how it is handled, some fan bases is going to feel screwed. If the plan is announced before the season, they can gripe, but they knew what is going in. If the league makes this kind of announcement after the season, the team that takes the biggest hit will scream bloody murder. Drafts are a big generator of interest. The USFL has, from everything I've heard, is they're not doing a draft. You'll be able to just sign whoever you want, whatever you need. I would assume that the XFL is going to do the same thing for season 2 at least. You know, let's get back to season 2 because these players are going to want to play with coaches. Maybe they're not going to want to play with coaches. They'll get traded at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, just signing guys throughout the whole year, it'd be kind of nice to have a draft, but they're just trying to, I don't think there's going to be a draft. I want a draft. We have the CFL draft, I believe, happening in May 2nd, I believe, is the CFL draft. We'll be covering that on CFL News Hub. Drafts always get a ton of interest, and I hope that they do some kind of draft. And it'd be cool if they did some kind of like this, like keepers. Like, I mean, because you could have an event during the off season, you know, in July, if you wanted to, and be like, hey, we're doing a show on ESPN and we're going to do a keepers show, and people would watch it, you know, before the NFL season starts. But yeah, you could do something like that. Interesting. He says, regardless of how season 2 and 3 beyond play out, the one thing the league cannot afford to let happen is one or two teams become perpetual powerhouses at the expense of other teams always being left at the bottom. Could cause law. Fill the dome. Good luck, Jordan. Don checking in. Yes, and the powerhouse thing is one thing, but in all honesty, you need St. Louis to be good because that will fill that place up. So St. Louis needs to be good. San Antonio needs to be good. Las Vegas needs to be good. DC can survive. Arlington and Houston could survive. Seattle can survive. But, you know, those teams with the big stadiums really need to be successful on there. Let's see. Brian checking in. He says, trying to find out who's in charge of officiating and rules innovation at the XFL. Thank you for your time. We just had him on, Brian. It is Dean Blandino. And you just heard him talk on this episode. James says, here is my XFL News Hub review, and it only needs one word. Outstanding. All the best. God bless. Thank you, James, for checking in. Appreciate all the kind words. Last chance, chat room. Who is your South Division champion going on there? Oh, there's tons of stuff in there. Let's see here. Why can't we start supporting both? Somebody said they want, talking about trolls, golf. The only golf I like is golf, Chris says. Golf minus country music. Ryan says cacaw. Paladin says bring Tamu home. No, he is home in D.C., my friend. Ryan says Don does know perfectly what he's talking about. Cacaw, go Battlehawks. Samuel says open upper section as well as at Ford Field in Detroit as well for Michigan Panthers. I'd agree that. Ryan says fill the dome. Let's see here. That's about it from the champion. Oh, Ryan says Battlehawks are dominating the North Division. Okay. I just think that Samuel says Houston Roughnecks winning the South Division. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I think, and you saw, I mean, the early consensus on the betting, they had Battlehawks number 1 and Houston and Orlando at the bottom. I hope all the teams go 4-4, but there's just not going to be, that's not going to be the way it goes. All right, my friends, we are wrapping almost a 2-hour program. Again, make sure if you want to be part of the show, leave us a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. And always leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it on the show. And that is it from me, friends. I appreciate all the guests we had on. Dean Blandino, Brian Herrion, and then from Virtual Tables, Courtney Jeffries. Really excited about that. That tables thing seems really cool. I appreciate all of them coming on. More cool guests next week as well. And on Sunday, we're going to be 2 weeks out. You're going to have the Pro Bowl. Then you're going to have the Super Bowl and then the XFL. That's what's coming up. See you guys, your DC people at the DC Defenders. Make sure you smash that like button. That's it for me. Mahalo, as always. God bless. And I will see you all later.